Alrighty, welcome everybody. So a lot of people will be joining as well. Let me just do this, enable waiting room, okay? Alrighty, once again, welcome everybody to the Volume 6 Mastermind here. We have Michael, first and foremost. He's our Chief Commercial Officer. Welcome, Michael, as well. And then we also have our rock star, Jesus Toledo. Jesus is a successful entrepreneur with a track record of 4 successful startups, 2 of which have had successful exits. He has been actively involved in the real estate industry for the past 6 years, focusing on developing effective real estate lead generation solution. He's also an active investor, helping other investors grow their business by providing strategic guidance on data and outbound marketing strategies. His company, 80/20 REI, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with, is dedicated to helping professional real estate investors achieve their goals by being intentional with their data and marketing strategies. Jesus.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the intro. Hi, how are you, everyone? Looking forward to sharing some knowledge with you guys, and maybe we can learn something.
Yeah, guys, I'm excited about this one. No one that I know in the industry is more intentional about data or more educated about data than Jesus. So having him on to talk to you guys and kind of answer those best practice questions and just, you know, data concepts and ideas about how to really break through the noise. There's no better person than in the industry to have on today. So excited for all of y'all to have a chance to talk with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely would love to see everybody who to open up their cameras. Would love to see all the faces that decided to join in. And sure thing, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to be answering them accordingly as well. But first, Jesus, shall we begin with the topic of today's mastermind? An extremely important topic, definitely. So this is mostly going to go around the list segmentation, why it is important to have quality of the data, and so on. So first question for you, Jesus. So based on that, the data quality and the segmentation part, what are some effective techniques to filter and refine the lead data for better targeting? What would you say?
Well, that's a very great question, and there is a lot of layers to that one, right? So the first approach that we highly recommend on data is, regardless of where you're getting your data from, right? So depending on where you are in your journey, so if you're beginning in your journey, and I know you guys have a wide variety of clients, right? If you're beginning your journey, make sure that you're stacking your data, make sure that you're segmenting it in a way that you can prioritize what data points are more important than others. If you're more advanced and you're already doing 20, 30, maybe 50 deals a year, and you're trying to scale your business, it's really important to get maybe predictive data, something that we call premium data, that allows you to already receive data that is ranked and prioritized. The purpose of having data that you can segment on how likely they are to sell at a discount. Again, if you're stacking the properties that are with 3, 4 different lists, you can assume they're more likely to sell at a discount. If you're getting a data from a vendor like us, that's what we do, right? We help real estate investors with data who is more likely to sell at a discount. You can automatically receive a list that is already pre-sorted. But the importance is, regardless of where you're getting your data, is creating different approaches based on the data that you're getting. So twofold to that. The number one is, the properties are more likely to sell at a discount. You need to be more intentional on how often you engage with them, right? We like to take a 3-tier approach in order to achieve these, and to try to keep it super simple, and we can go more in depth on this. You want to segment your data in 3 tiers. One is extremely likely to sell at a discount, highly likely to sell at a discount, and moderate likely to sell at a discount. And build a strategy where you engaging with the most likely to sell at a discount once a month, right? So I know Launch allows you to text once a month. So those probably are the ones that you really want to be in front of them. And if you're calling as well, you want to make sure that you're cold calling them very aggressively as well. The second tier of your data, you want to make sure, and that will be, like if you're stacking, will be properties with 1 or 2 distresses that are more significant. If you get your data from us, we're already giving you that, where that second tier is very important as well. but the frequency where you engage with them is not necessarily every month. You can be engaging with them every other month, right? That allows you to not burn all your data and re-engage with everybody every single month. You can treat a pre-foreclosure lead, right? And just a high equity owner the same way, right? That's the principle. This is a very easy to resonate with, right? If you approach a pre-foreclosure every month, eventually they will respond. If you're calling them, it's important you get a hold of them. A high equity owner, life happens and something happened in their life, but 3 months, 2 months, or to a 3 month period is not necessarily something that's significantly going to change why they want to sell at a discount. So the premise is creating 3 tiers of data and then creating a frequency of reconnect with them every 30, every 60, and every 90 days. So that way you are being purposeful with your marketing efforts, the time that you're spending on the different type of leads, trying to generate leads in order to get more leads, right? Prospects, we call prospects the list. That way you are not engaged with everybody at the same time with no intention. So that's like the key word for us is being intentional. Once you understand the segments of the tiers of your data, you can be intentional on the frequency when you engage with them. The second fold to that question, and Jason and Michael, please feel free to add anything there. The second thing is, if you have the data organized, the number one we try to recommend our clients when they're starting to elevate their SMS, leveraging data into SMS, is start building little segments within the list. For example, any financial distress that you have, that's one of the main reasons why people start a discount to investors like us, is because they're in a financial struggle. So if you know they are behind on their mortgage, if you know that they are in a debt collection list or a low credit score, whatever you're getting or your data, and you know they're going through a financial stress, the text message that you send them can be different than the one that you're sending your other lists. So combining the frequency with the message that you're sending based on what they're going through can significantly increase the results, right? So building your list, having a good process to build your list is super important, right? So you can either stack. If you're not ready to pay premium for data, you can stack it and take this approach. It's not easy. It requires a lot of work and being super organized. And the other one, you can go to a vendor like us and just get the data that's already segmented, it's already tiered, and it allows you to really start building. Because once you segment the financial distresses, you can go a little further and start, okay, now that I have this dialed in, let me add the absentee and separate them from everybody else. Because absentee owner also needs to hear a different message from a non-owner occupied, right? But managing all of this, we like to think about this as a several weeks program. Is not something that you can change in one day, because managing multiple campaigns with multiple templates, with multiple frequencies can be very challenging. But if you start one thing at a time, a little by little, you start adding more segmentation of the data and you're sending more targeted messages with the right time so you can increase those responses.
So
Did that make some sense?
Yes, it makes sense. So I have a question here for you. So can you please provide us some tips for targeting a specific list with the content, like this is an absentee on a list and this should be the content for SMS, or this specific prospect is going through divorce, so this should be the content. Is there any way you can just give us a one-liner and we can base our whole content on that specific one-liner?
So, well, this is the beautiful part of today's age. We have ChatGPT to help us with that. I have a video and I can send it over for you guys. I don't have here top of my head like exactly, but I'm not a copywriter, so I have a hard time creating this. But ChatGPT really helps us with this. In the past, we had a team of copywriters helping us create these messages should be targeted. Now we replaced all of it for ChatGPT. So if you type in ChatGPT, help me write a message, I'm trying to buy their house, I'm a real estate investor, and seller might be going through a divorce, it will give you a pretty good guidelines in there, right? We have one that we use. So there is one exception that we're very targeted that we highly recommend. If you have the bandwidth, again, guys, what I'm saying here is level 2, 3, 4, right? Like getting to this requires time, requires training, requires management. So a pre-foreclosure list, if you have access to a fresh pre-foreclosure list, that's a number one source of why somebody will sell at a discount. And it's probably the stress indicator or list indicator that somebody needs help from an investor is the number one by far. There's no other list that outperforms a pre-foreclosure list. That's the only list that we recommend being super upfront of what's going on with them, right? So I can send to you, Micah, do you have that? Micah here he's with us as well. But we're basically saying, I'm trying to get a hold of the owner of 123 Main Street, and you need to work around with the verbiage. I know we have some restriction of words that we can use, right? It seems like a list pendants that's being filed against your property. Would you be opposed for a quick call to show you the options that you might have, right? That's an example. But we only recommend being super upfront to what's going on with that seller with the pre-foreclosures. Everybody else, it's not like we want to point out that I know you are going through a divorce. But we can say is something along the lines like, my team specializes in solving these type of problems. And if you know 1 or 2 or 3 distresses that they're going through, you can mention them, right? We can connect you with a probate attorney. We can guide you paying liens. So it's focusing on the solution that we can provide to a possible problem that they might be going through. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Now the question is, let's suppose we skipped a single property address, and we are gonna get 5 to 7 phone numbers against that property address. And out of those 5 to 7 numbers, 1 is going to be the correct numbers, and other 6 are wrong numbers. Just a possibility. Just say a possibility, right? And if you text the same content to all 7 numbers, hey, I know you're going through bad times. I know you're going through divorce. Just for an example, the one who is going through divorce, he's gonna absorb that thing, right? So the other 6 are gonna mark you as spam. So that is going to put pressure on the carrier, whatever we are using for texting, right? So our account is on suspension mode, on suspension risk. So what's your take on this?
I mean,
Jesus, I can answer this one.
Yes, please. I just want to add one quick thing before you answer, Mike. I wouldn't say, I know you're going through this. I would say my team specializes helping on these situations. And I wouldn't put 1 situation, I would put 2 or 3 situations, because you don't want to, you don't want them to believe you're like pointing them out they're going through something, right? You're going to throw 2 or 3 different situations, and one of them being the one that they're going through. And the other ones could be generic, that everybody needs. Like we by team specializing buying properties without repairs, helping with divorce, or closing remotely. There's a couple other things that you can add there to not be saying, hey, I know you are going through a divorce, right? It's more generic with the subtle touch. There is one that is specifically tailor-made to them. And Michael, go ahead with the spam. That's more your wheelhouse.
Okay, so Peter, a couple of things. In the system, in launch control, you can only text up to 3 numbers per contact record, and it's very, very, very important that you guys use the verify button, right? As soon as someone gets a response, you need to verify that number so that the other numbers will not be contacted, right? So that if you do that diligently, you're not going to have any issues with over messaging incorrect recipients. It's honestly just a simple case of diligence. But I do want to take a step back and add a little to what Jesus was saying. So I want you guys to think of this even beyond just text messaging, and think of this as sales conversion for your business. So these very important groups that Jesus is talking about, say homeowners over 55, or someone in pre-foreclosure, or Peter, you brought up the case of someone in divorce, and you asked the question, how do you approach them? Now, the example that Jesus gave for pre-foreclosure, you'll notice that he did not say, so my team and I are aware that you're in pre-foreclosure and the bank's threatening to take your house, wanted to talk about alternatives. That feels threatening, right? So and the same thing, if you say, hey, I know you're going through a divorce, if you were going through divorce, would you want, Micah Johnson or Peter Martin to be messaging you about the fact that they know, these people that don't know you coming from an unknown number, that you're going through a divorce? You don't want to do that, right? That is not going to go off well. Right. So what you want to be thinking about is the motivating factors for those subgroups. And by putting these subgroups together, you can put yourself in the mindset of the recipient. And that's really important, right? So if you take, say, homeowners 55 or over, high equity, well, they're not even if their house looks distressed, they are not emotionally distressed, mentally distressed. Like they have time to take their time, right? So you would think logically that you'd want to approach that with patience. You'd want to let them know that they might have opportunities that they didn't realize were available, that would save them a lot of time, effort, upkeep on the house. Like you can get into those discovery details. But the point is that you want to be able to build trust, not be super pushy, because if you were in that situation, if you were that recipient, you wouldn't want somebody saying, hey, because you have no ticking clock, right? Your timeline is extended. If you are someone that is in pre-foreclosure and you're a recipient, aren't those the lists that every single investor wants? So you don't have that person isolated in a conversation. You have to figure out a way to break through the white noise, right? And if everyone is coming at them from the wrong angle and saying, hey, heard you're getting divorced, heard you're in pre-foreclosure, and they're coming at them from a threatening perspective, and you come at them from a place of opportunity, options, helpfulness, you'll be able to break through. So if you're going to use ChatGTP, right, don't put in prompts that say mention divorce. Put in tone prompts.
That's exactly what I say. Like you're spot on, Michael. Like on my prompt on ChatGPT that we created is, we believe the seller might be going through this in this situation. Do not mention the situation, right? You're going to provide a solution for the situation without being super. You said it perfectly, Mike.
And guys, we're engineering this right now. I literally just yesterday with our conversation designer had this conversation where we took all of the homeowner pain points, and it was, things that you guys would be aware of, like going through divorce, being messaged too many times, too much pressure coming in from text messages, etc. We went through them and I said, for every one of these, we need the emotional fix. We need the emotional motivation, and we need to prompt to that so that we are not mentioning pain points, but instead providing solutions for pain points. And if you guys are taking that same approach in either your personally written messages or your prompt structure, you're going to get better results. Within the next few months, we're going to roll out AI generated content for you guys on the app, and you'll be able to just select factors, and then those templates will be created for you with that same emotional resolution based approach to it. So it'll take a lot of the guesswork out of it for you. But in the meantime, be thinking of it that way. And also, I've seen a lot of questions coming through about volume. Okay, so one of the things that when you get to Jesus's level and any investor's level that they're doing 7 figures and above, they have multiple marketing channels, not because they have the money to do it, because they know that it takes multiple touch points, and sometimes touch points coming from different angles to break through. So it's not a question of how many times you can text them in a short period of time. It's a question of how do you get their captive attention? Because until you get to the point of discovery call, there's still data, right? There's still a conversation you're trying to activate. Once you've activated that conversation and you get to the point where you can be an investor and you can have a discovery call and you can offer alternatives and you can find out motivation and you can find out timeline, it's getting to that end point, right, Jesus?
No, exactly what you said. And I want to just reinforce that you just said. One of the things that we learned over the years by providing data, and actually we used to execute on marketing as well. What we learned is having great data. If your goal is to get better ROI on any marketing channel, great data is only 30% of the equation. The other 70% is exactly what Michael is saying, is the intentionality on what channels do you target those people, how often you engage with them on every single one. And I saw some questions around this on the chat, like how long should I follow up with them before I recycle my list? The truth is, if you're intentional about it, you're going to engage with them forever until they sell or they die. There's no other, or they sell, or they tell you not to continue, because the idea behind it is you take a step back. The same way that when you receive a lead, you're very intentional about it, right? You're probably calling them every day, you're texting them, like when it's a hand raise, somebody says, I want to sell my house. You're very intentional with it. We want you to challenge you to take a step back and think about your data is giving you enough information to create the same level of intentionality for prospecting purposes, for outreach, right? So you engaging with a seller that might not be as distressed. 1 month you're doing a text message, the other month you're calling them, the other month you mailing them, right? And that's exactly what we help our clients to do. It's taking a step back, looking at the data as macro as possible, and building a strategy to help you convert more without the need of recycling the lists, right? Your list is like a living organism. Until they don't sell the property, they should be in your list. But how often you engage with them, it's what varies based on where they are in their journey, right? So having campaigns, and this is something that it is important. Maybe Michael and Jason, you guys can talk a little bit more about it, but creating the follow-ups, right? Like in launch, you have to create the follow-up campaigns. So if you're able to segment your list in the different tiers, we call them extremely likely, highly likely, and moderate likely. And you know that if I create extremely likely, which I want to follow up every 30 days, I put there that I create this extremely likely in July. And I know in August, I need to do a follow-up for that specific list. But my moderate likely, I'm going to follow up with them in 60 days. So if I put in July, I know I need to wait until September to follow up with them, right? That way, it allows you to not overburn and kill your list, where more people, and this is actually really healthy and helpful for you to prevent your spam rate going up. Because if you text it every week, you can't do that on launch. But if you text every week a seller who's just a high equity owner, he's going to get upset. Eventually, he will start reporting your numbers as spam. But if you text them every 3 months, every 4 months, he will not feel it. It's different. So having that strategy from the beginning with your data, it really, really, really helps increase the return on investment. And then the final part of that, increasing your ROI, is what you say, when you say it, right? Like on what channel. So really managing those things is very key to what you said, Michael.
Well, if I may chime in.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry about that. I mean, I just wanted to mention that, yes, Jesus, if you're not, just to kind of loop back in the beginning, if you're not able to afford to buy already predetermined lists and so on, and you have to start from the beginning, it's just find your niche. And as you're going deeper inside of that niche, the segmentation should be following to the point where we're pretty much relying on data-driven decisions. But Jesus, now that we've covered so we know the importance of getting the good data, what it means for us actually getting to the right person, getting valuable information from those lists. What would you say? So we got the list, we got the segmentation going on. So now we have to properly engage with our leads. So how do you highlight the seemingly not interested leads, and how do you keep those conversations alive?
Yeah, so I think we have 2 questions in this, and I want to say this, guys, when you're texting, your number one goal, when you're cold calling, your number one goal is mark that verify button on launch. It's getting a hold of the owner. Like Peter, you were saying, I have 5, 6 numbers, right? You can only text 3, but that's a 3-to-1 ratio. Like you have 3 potential numbers. The moment you have one owner, it's one property that you know it's happening, and you have the owner. That's a big win already, right? Like, so regardless of what they answer after that, if you can verify the owner, that's the biggest win that you can do. A lead is a cherry on top in our world, right? Because it's very hard to find somebody who says, yes, I'm the owner, I'm very interested in selling, and you sign a contract within 7 days. It doesn't happen that often. It happens here and there. But by you identifying the owners, and then you have a split decision. Are they interested or not interested? We call not yet interested. Right. So if they're interested, you follow your process, it starts your sales process. If they're not interested, please, guys, this is not like, if you can take this takeaway is verifying every owner that you talk to, try to verify any owner that you talk to. And second, put them on a drip campaign for they're not yet interested. And don't treat them lightly, especially if you are processing your data, if you're stacking, if you're doing different things, or you're getting premium data like a vendor like us, you have to be super intentional. The moment they say I'm the owner, it's a big win. You know something is going on. It might not be a yes now, but it's a yes in the near future. So leverage the verified button, leverage the drip campaigns, and start calling them. You should have a section in your CRM that you can also call them as a not yet interested lead. It's not your most qualified leads, but it is way better than a prospect, right? At the very least is a 3-to-1 better, because you had, or 5-to-1 better if you have 5 numbers, just from effectiveness perspective. If you separate that list and you put it on a dialer, or you text just that list in the appropriate time, right? That's why the drip campaigns are super important inside launch. In the appropriate time, it's very important that you will get a much higher response rate if you engage with them correctly.
Would you like to add something?
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm good. We can continue.
Alrighty. Well,
Yes. Yeah, I have a question.
go ahead. Sure.
Okay. So, Jesus, what should be the first text that we should send to the seller? Like, firstly, we should confirm, hey, I'm just checking if you are the owner of this property address, or we need to go straight away with the pain point they are going through with the strategy that we just discussed. What should be your approach?
I don't think the cold approach should be about verifying the owner. And Michael and Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but ours is all about the solution. It's not about you. It's not about them. If you ask me, are you the owner of the property? I'm not going to answer that. Like, what do you care? But if you're solving a problem that I'm going through, I'm more likely to answer. Now, once they answer, I do want to verify, right? If they give me a plain no, like whatever I ask them and they give me a plain no, I want to ask a follow-up question to that. Oh, just to confirm, is this John from 123 Main Street, right? And a lot of times they're going to say yes. And that is a win.
Oh.
I know it's nothing. I have no idea what they are. I like
Peter,
a lot
to
of your
answer-
first answers is a no.
Yeah, Peter, to follow up on that, I started with launch right in the beginning, so maybe 4 years ago at this point. And I spent the first 6 months of my job just talking to investors and getting to know what their processes were, what their pain points were, so that we could work on content solutions for everybody. Now, of those 1,000+ investors that I talked to, 998 were starting with the message, "You own 57 Green Street, is that correct?" Or some variation of. So when you know that you're using lists that other people are also going to be contacting, and you're going to be one of 7 messages that say, "You're the owner of 57 Green Street, is that correct?" Not going to stand out, right? Jesus's approach of coming at it from a place of kind of emotional intentionality and actually having a solution in mind, or actually having some making some effort to break through that white noise, is going to be a lot more effective than the exact same message that everyone else is sending.
Yeah.
I have a question.
But
What is that initial message or solution oriented message?
Well, as Jesus said, if you break it down into groups of like what their motivation factor is, right? So if it's someone that's in pre-foreclosure, they're going to have a certain motivation factor. If it's somebody that you know is an investor, they have multiple properties, then obviously you're going to take a more short, to the point, solutions oriented approach. But you need to, by targeting your lists and not doing campaigns that are thousands of names, but instead campaigns that are, maybe 500 names with a hyper focus on what their motivation is, then you can match that messaging to those very hyper targeted campaigns. And the first message is going to be based around what you know their kind of motivating factors are. Now, I would suggest, and this is something that you guys are going to see more and more in the industry, is even at the beginner level, even at that initial standpoint, you're going to have much more sophisticated sales and marketing kind of systems. And one of the things in marketing that every marketer does is they A/B test, right? So you're going to have different message templates that take a slightly different approach, and you're going to want to test those, right? Using coming from that same campaign, sending different batches with different A/B tested template approaches to that same campaign and looking to see where you're getting the better results. And look beyond just what your delivery and response rates are, because the delivery rate is just a mechanism of how healthy your data is. If your data is healthy, you're going to get close to a 90% deliverability rate. Your response rate is going to vary anywhere between, say, 15 and 20%, depending on how well you were able to break through. But if you think about the difference between, let's say 15% and 17%, right? Which means that for every 1,000 messages you're sending, you're getting an extra 20, 25 responses. And you do that over the course of the month. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential deals just in that 2% over the year, right? So it does matter. A/B testing does matter. And the thing you really want to look for, and this is not something that you can measure on your dashboard, is the quality of the responses, right? If you get a 20% response rate that is 90% F off, that's not good. If you get a 14% response rate, and of that 14% response rate, you got 4 discovery calls, that's phenomenal, right? So it's about the quality of the response more so than the volume of response or percentage of response, right? So when you A/B test that and you take this hyper-focused campaign and this very motivation intentional messaging, and you A/B test that, and you're able to then verify that by quality of response, then you know if you're winning, right? Then you know if you're doing well. But if you just take this like blasted out volume approach, you are never going to drill down to that level. All you're going to do is chew through data. You might as well just light a flame to your data. And by doing that, the cost to your business skyrockets, because you're constantly needing to buy new data, constantly needing to skip trace, and just feeling like you're getting nothing out of it. But if you take Jesus's intentional approach and do that kind of A/B testing and those hyper-targeted campaigns, what you're going to do is actualize a lot more of that data. And what's your average deal? 15 to 20K profit per deal. So it adds up, the benefits add up really, really fast by being just a bit more intentional.
I'd agree more. By the way, Jesus, so we started you mentioned the importance of verifying the number and then also kind of sending a follow-up message just to kind of confirm that we've reached the right prospect. So could you also elaborate a little bit further as to the importance of actually getting to the right person?
Yeah, like we talked about it, it's being effective, right? Like when you skip trace, you get 3, 5, 7 results on numbers. And just the fact that you were able to have, like if you have a 10,000 record list and you have 5 numbers on average, that's 50,000 numbers. If you could have just 10,000 numbers and know it was the owners, it would be amazing, right? So the moment you are able to verify, and this is where the drip campaigns and calling them at the right time with the right message, it really makes a difference. And consider that a win. Like, teach your team to believe that a verified contact is a first win. A lead is a cherry on top, and that's how we like to always see it, as really trying to identify the owner. Because if you have the data, it's not, even if they tell you, you know what, don't call me again, obviously you have to put them on the DNC, you need to honor that, but there is more to that. If maybe you can engage them through another channel later on, that could be something as well to consider. Especially the super targeted list, right? Like a pre-foreclosure owners, the first response, like if you're doing it right, you're one of the first ones reaching out to them. If you're buying data, that you're getting fresh source, that it is accurate and fresh, you're going to be one of the first ones talking to them. The first reaction of most of the people who are going through significant distress is F off, like I'm in denial, right? And I know from compliance reasons is very difficult to continue engaging with them through the same channel if they tell you to do not contact them. But there are ways, right? And if you have your data in order and you can leverage that, you can be intentional and say, okay, I cannot text them anymore. Maybe I'll call them 2 days from now, a day from now, because you know upfront that something is going on with them.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I have a question about that. Would you guys be able to point me in the direction of being able to hire a person or personnel to manage this part of my business?
Yeah, absolutely. We can follow up with that. Jason and I'll take a note for sure.
I don't need any money or or what to say or anything like that. I just need some belly buttons to do it for me.
Collins, if you can drop your email in the chat box, I can definitely follow up on that.
Yeah, and guys, I just wanted to back up what Jesus just said. Like, the sooner you can start thinking of this as having a lineup of doors that you can open, and texting is one of those doors. And if texting isn't what activates that conversation, looking for other angles that you can take, because the thing is, it's this whole ecosystem that connects. So if you guys think about discovery calls that you've had, leads that you've pushed to your CRM already that went cold, but you've already activated those conversations, right? So you might want to retarget those with SMS. You know, it may have been a phone call that got you onto that discovery call. It might be a text message that gets you back in front of that homeowner. You've got different doors that you can take, and it's always just a question of which door is going to open access to that homeowner in that moment. And so never think of a lead as dead because a text didn't work, or a call didn't work, or an email didn't work. You have different doors that you can take, and the question is just always about how do you get their captive attention so that you can provide solutions, get yourself a deal, but get them, you know, hopefully to a better place as well. Like there is a heart happy part of what we do, right? So if you can get to that place, it's just which door gets you their captive attention.
Yeah, and you said something, Michael, that I forgot to say in the beginning. When you're crafting these type of messages, and I want to say two things there. One is, when you're crafting the messages, it's not about you as an investor. It's all about them, right? Like, we're in this business to really help. Like we get the opportunity to help somebody in a tough situation. If your communication, if your messaging is coming from that place, you're going to have better results than everybody else who's just saying, hey, I want to buy your house, right? I want to buy your house doesn't say it's all about me. I want to buy your house. If I say something where I can serve you, help you through a situation, or take your home with a tenant if they're an absentee owner. So there's so many little things that if you put in their minds that you can offer as part of your service to them, it's about them, it's not about you. And the second thing that Michael said that is really, I just want to go a little deeper on that, is understanding your marketing channels are not independent, right? You have to have an intention from prospect. Hey, I'm going to text first, call later, mail later, whatever marketing channels you are doing. Eventually, if you're starting out or you're still getting to a certain volume, you want to focus on one channel. But the moment you master that one, you want to expand to the next one. But when you're doing that, you need to be intentional for many reasons, right? Some people hate text. Some people love cold calling. Some people love a mail. Some people hate the mail, right? So having that intention on, okay, I'm going to try first on text, then I'm going to try on, and 30 days from now, I'm going to try on cold calling, and then 30 days again, I'm going to try on direct mail, and then cross-referencing. If somebody you call, they say, no, I mean, they say, I am the owner, but I'm not interested. And it's doing exactly what Michael said. Those leads should be on your CRM, but also should be in your launch control account, trying to re-engage with them, right? The follow-ups from prospect to not interested to leads, all of that needs to be intentional.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to drop off. I have another meeting that I need to go to, but you're obviously in very good hands with Jesus and Jason. So just wanted to say thanks everyone for attending, and yeah, have a great time with the rest of
Thank you, Michael.
the rest of the mastermind. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you, Michael. A quick question here. When you guys are like texting or sending direct mail or whatever, do you still stay the same company for them, or you don't mention that you texted or called, or like you're trying to hit them every time and look like a different person or the same person trying multiple ways?
Ooh, that's a deep question. I don't know what's the recommended on on launch, so I don't want to cross any terms and conditions from launch. Personally, I don't like to mix the cold approach with our brand, like the brand that we have on direct mail and PPC and SEO, just because cold approach generates noise, right? And it can be damaging for your brand. Even if you're doing it right, still people are going to have a bad reaction on it. So when we're cold calling or doing SMS, we don't necessarily use the same brand that we have on our website and our like more formal brand. Again, that's more of a question for best practices around the terms and conditions and regulation from launch. But that would be my take on it.
Oh, yeah, I can. Sorry about that. I can definitely chime on that. So it really depends, but then again, if first, whether you are going to be even including your brand and initial messages in the initial message, or are you going to establish a conversation and a connection with the prospect before actually forwarding further information about who you are, who do you work for, and so on and so on. But then at the end of the day, if you are using different channels and pretty much using the initial approach for all of them, at the end, in a way, you are competing with yourself. So if you're using launch control to text your leads, and then you're using cold calling to reach out to them from a completely different number, not mentioning, and then you're using direct mail to, again, a third type of reach out, and they have no idea that you are one investor texting from the 3 different channels, it can create confusion. Like I said, you may end up competing with yourself. For example, what we do is if you call somebody through launch control that may be a qualified lead and they don't pick up the phone, you go back to launch control and let them know that, hey, I just try to reach out to you from a business number, from a personal number, or anything like that, because they're going to get confused. If you're using CRM to cold call or warm call leads, it's going to have a different it's going to have a different number, right? Also, what a lot of the times it happens, what I see, what the people do with their initial approach is, hey, did you receive my email last week, a month ago, or something like that? So it's another connection between direct mail and engaging with them through SMS. So do you want to compete with yourself using different channels, or do you want to connect all of them by using one and then going back to the second one saying that I just try to reach you, and so on and so on?
Awesome.
And just
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead.
It will pull us back a little bit towards the lists. So there's a lot of different service providers across. Wanted to figure out what's the best approach to get the most accurate, reliable, fresh data. That's number one. Number two, right now, everybody uses AI next to any list they provide. And you don't really know if there's some sort of a logic behind that list to be pulled together or no. Is there anybody that you guys know that actually provide data driven by AI based on a buy box or a specific market or a specific criteria that actually pull real data that you would recommend? That's my second question.
Hey, thank you for that question, because that's exactly what we do. You just described exactly what we do. So let me answer that question, because there's twofold, right? Some of you guys here are going to be in your early stages in your business, and I want to give you guys some value as well. The best data that you can get, if you want to do it and you have the knowledge and you want to do it, is directly from the source, right? Like, you should know your market better than anybody else. You should be mining the pre-foreclosures directly. Like, if you can take one thing from this, a you beginner, I would personally just go to my county, figure out how I can find the pre-foreclosures before anybody else, and that will be my list. I will live and die on that list. I will know the pre-foreclosure process like the back of my hand. I will be the first one texting them. I will be the first one calling them until I get to a significant volume, 2-3 deals a month, and then I will take on the next one. All the other data vendors, Abe, to be honest, like I call them in 2 tiers, right? Like anybody who's paying a subscription, you're paying 3 cents per, it's almost everything is the same. The only main differences there is really you're missing on a lot of data that's unformatted. It's really hard to get. We call them hidden gems. But it's very similar. Some are going to be slightly more accurate than others, but it's generic. If you can pay $100 and get 40,000 record, everybody else is, right? So you're getting the exact same data that everybody else is getting. The filters are the same. Everything is the same. Now, to answer your question on the premium data, like we do, what we do is literally how we process. So we have a combination of advanced stacking, and to your point, we are able to measure the weight of each niche list that we have per market and predict, not just based on the distresses, but also on another 100 or so data points that allows us to predict who's more likely to sell at a discount. Everything starting from a buy box. So when you onboard with us, I would love to connect with you on a call and we can talk more about our product. But in a really nutshell, we take, first is a collaboration between us and you. We take your buy box, we look at what's happening in your market, what have you done in the past, and we help you find the 80-20. What is the 20% of properties that generated 80% of your revenue? What do they have in common? So we can go more at finding more of those. And then we rank everybody who is more likely to sell at a discount based on a machine learning algorithm that we created. And you said it right, like everybody now is saying that they have machine learning, AI, whatever. It is true. Like machine learning AI has been around on this level forever, not at ChatGPT level, right? That's new, but at training models and predicting has been for a long, long time. What it's important there, and this is a challenge if you're in your quest on trying to identify what is a good vendor for you, if you're looking for a premium data, is what do they feed that model? Because if I train our model, our machine learning model, with just properties that recently sold, I'm training them to build a model for agents, right? I'm just predicting properties are going to sell, but not necessarily to us investors, right? So we are very, very thorough on what we consider a success case in order to train our models. So we're accurately predicting who's more likely to sell at a discount. I hope that made sense a little bit. We can talk more offline if you want. Actually, yeah. Michael, we have another link that we can share there. Jason, I know you're going to share that later.
Definitely. Just kind of we're running a little bit longer than usual, but that's perfectly fine. But as pretty much all.
Sorry, yes.
No, all good. But
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
If we sign up with either like 80-20 or anything like that, or I'm just trying to see if anybody can help us with customizing those messages per like list type that the seller falls on. The initial message plus like the timing of the other messages. Either launch or 80-20 guys help us with all those pre-canned messages.
Waiting.
I couldn't hear you quite well.
I'm sorry. I asked if we signed up with like 80-20. I mean, we're already signed up with launch, but I'm wanting to best maximize the data that we have. So is launch or either you 80-20 guys able to like help us with the pre-canned messages and the follow-up messages and the timing as well that you guys have spoken on?
So we work very closely with launch, right? Most of our clients are using launch. What we do is we help you with the data, the intentionality, the frequency. So you're going to get a list, one list for cold call, one list for SMS, one list for direct mail. So we're managing the frequency in the back end. And we have several trainings on how to leverage that data into the targeted message that we're talking. We call them targeted messages, which is segmenting the data in 5 main categories and building a specific message through that. We don't give you the exact message that you should send, but we have a lot of trainings around leveraging those data points that it's all included in our data solution for you to be able to do it.
Cool, got it. Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm interested in hearing more about your service and whatnot.
No, yeah, I would love to.
I have a question for you. I don't know if it's geared towards Jason or you, Jesus. I'm a licensed real estate agent in the Philadelphia area. I've been prospecting for several years, expired, withdrawn, canceled listings, people that were unsuccessful in those sales. Do you guys have any, and this is my first time signing on to Launch Control. I'm trying to save the 3 to 5 hours of prospecting I do on a daily basis and, condense it to just working with, through text messages, hopefully, and just follow up with people that respond accordingly. What would you say are some of the best practices? Because we've been trained and taught through, whether it's Keller Williams or this new company I'm with now. I use Vulcan 7 data. First time they call, you call them every day for like 7 days or 10 days until they tell you, not to call them back, or they're interested in having a conversation with you. It's very painful. And I have realistically been doing this since 2016. So I have like 46,000 profiles of data points to go through, individuals, whether some of them are repeat, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, canceled, expires, withdrawn. What would you say are some of the best practices to leverage that data, getting into this, using Launch Control now? And I got the messaging point, going through the emotional part. So the script that I get all that. I'm just figuring, like, system wise, how to implement, starting off, with something like that as a realtor, non-investor.
By the way, Solon. Okay.
Solon, yeah.
Apologies about that. So
All good.
have you used SMS before?
I have not. I've been mostly phone calls, and when I say I prospect daily, it's $200 to $300 a day.
It's a little bit tricky when it comes to using SMS as an agent, because we already know that making any unsolicited sales or providing any services via SMS is forbidden. So SMS will be a great tool when it comes to you engaging with your leads, them opting in. But again, at that point, you want to take it off of text. So you either still, if they opt in and they show motivation, you're going to call them anyways, right? But then again, we can't have that type of a direct approach via SMS, because those messages will most likely get flagged at some point. So you can engage with them, but there are certain regulations that forbid you to do it as directly as you would if you were a simple wholesaler just reaching out to a homeowner asking whether they're interested in selling.
Okay. So
Yeah, and so on that note, let me add something that you said that you were dialing, and they teach you to dial every day for like 7 days, right? You can only do that with your top part of the list. So you have to figure out a way that you can segment that. But that's exactly what we recommend for our 1% of prospects, right? It's the top of the top of the top, because it's unsustainable to call 10,000 people every day, for 7 days in a row. I mean, you can, but it requires a lot of manpower, right? So if you can segment your data and strategically focus on the ones that you do put that extra effort, because they are more likely to sell, in your case, to sell, you want to do that. It's worth investing, but you have to figure out a way to balance that. On the taxing side, Jason knows more about the regulations than anything. So,
okay, somebody put in, okay, last minute, I report a meeting ends. Okay. Alrighty, so again, just going back, we already ran a little bit longer, but we do have another question, and usually all roads lead to follow-ups at the end of the day. So the deals are in the follow-ups. Jesus, one final question for you. How can we learn to recognize the follow-up sequence based on prioritization of the responses? So whether they show motivation and then stop responding, whether they say immediately, no, I'm not interested, and so on and so on. Could you elaborate a little?
Yeah, so first, like we said before, leverage the drip campaigns. I think Launch has great drip campaigns, and mix it in, right? So the way that we look at leveraging the data inside the SMS is a lot what we talked before, but in texting is in particular, this happens very often. You send the first text message, right? They engage positively or warm, let's say, yes, maybe, tell me more, whatever. And then you ask a question and they ghost you, right? Like we call these the ghosted ones. And I know there is a drip campaign with the ghosted inside launch as well. So leveraging those two drip campaigns is key. And the second thing is when they ghost or they don't tell, and we talked about this before as well, when they ghost or they tell you I'm not that interested, mixing the calls. Like in our business, we generated from the leads that were verified or opened the conversation through text message, 30% were actually booked a discovery call for our lead managers through a phone call, right? So that's how important it is to the ghosted. So the people who responded once or twice or three times, yes, they answer a couple questions, then they disappear, they stop responding, get them on the phone, right? The same with the people that are not interested. You put them on the drip campaign on launch, you're going to continue re-engaging with them through text, but mix it in with the calls as well. And as far as frequency, it really varies. That's one of the things that we also help our clients is every month we ask them to tell us everybody who was not interested. So we can put them on a different frequency and they will continue showing on your list because, and this is like the important part is you have to continue following up with them on both channels and even direct mail if you are doing direct mail as well. I don't know, Jason, if there's anything else that you want me to expand on or any questions on that.
Oh, not really. I mean, we already know SMSing as an engagement tool is the best in the business, cost effective when it comes to deliverability and response rate. But then again, it's an engagement tool. It is also kind of 50% a lead conversion tool. But if we're talking about actual lead conversion, we're talking about warm calling or cold calling, or should I say just getting the lead on a phone call, right? So we can't rely only on the SMS, like, hey, they ghosted us. We asked them discovery questions about the property's condition, and all of a sudden they ghosted us. We're not just going to rely on the SMS. The end goal is to get them on a phone call. So just like Jesus said, combine both, include direct mail, include PPC, right? Include as many channels as you want or as you need to actually get in contact and begin the lead conversion, or should I say the lead qualifying process. So again, warm calling along with SMS. If we're talking about drip automations and the frequency of those that goes to, it's usually like 1 day and then a couple days and then 3 days, 5 days, 6 days. What you can do is pretty much follow that drip automation sequence. So if the first message is set to go out tomorrow, you give them a call tomorrow. If the next one is set to go out 2 days later, call them the same day when the message goes out. Some people like to call once, some people like to call twice back to back and just leave them a voicemail. But one important thing to note is if you're using launch control to text and a different dialer to call them, very important that once you call them, if they don't pick up, go back to launch control and immediately send them a message that, hey, I just tried to call you from my business number, personal number, office number, would love to talk about the property address. Let me know when is a good time to chat, right? Because one number goes the SMS, another number, you call them. So they might get confused. They don't want to pick up because they don't know who they are. But if you go back to LC, the inbox, and just let them know, next time you call them, most likely they're going to remember the number and they're actually going to pick up. But then again, we're talking about a very, very small window of when we should get them on a call. If they show motivation and we identify that we reached the owner, we identified that we reached the right person to, for that property, we don't want to be waiting too long, right? It's only a few minutes before when we should get them on a call. If they don't pick up, go back to launch control and let them know that we try to call them. The whole process should last no more than 10 minutes. By the time they respond, from the moment they've responded, you calling them, going back to launch control and letting them know that you've called them. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, no more than that, pretty much.
Yeah. Let me add a couple of things there. Jason, you said really well. I know we're running out of time, but this, I think it will be very valuable. Texting is 4 times more effective than cold calling, right? For engagement purposes. Now, after you engage, it's even, right? Like after you engage, it's even, but for engagement, like Jason was saying, just wanted to point that out. The second thing is one challenge for everybody on this call: the moment you finish here, go to launch, filter everybody that you have marked as verified. One, make sure that they are on the drip campaign, right? Either not interested or the ghosted one. And two, put them on the dialer and see how that goes. You're going to make a ton of connects, right? And those leads were created by SMS, but you will not convert them, but you will set an appointment through a cold call, through a warm call. I like how you described that, Jason. It's a warm call because you already have the verified number. The third is, oh, I forgot. Sorry. I was going to say something else. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Yeah, it's the intentionality. I think it was around intentionality, right? Like if you have too many, always prioritize who you calling first, who you texting. And this was it. Once, I'm not saying you should do this every single time, but especially the people who ghost you, right? There's two factors in there. One is if you're texting them and they're giving you long answers with details and giving all the information that you want quickly, don't try to call them. That's their preferred method of communication. They love texting, keep texting. You can get them to a home appointment through text message. I think we even signed a contract once without talking to the seller on the phone. Does it happen often? No, obviously not. But if they're not responding quickly, if they're answering yes, no, it's all good. Hey, maybe that's a little indicator for you to, hey, is it okay if I give you a call or just give them a call, right? And all those warm or the properties that you know, again, going back to the data, if you know ahead of time that they're going through something high in their lives, that they're highly likely to sell at a discount, don't call them once, call them 3 times, right? Not for prospects. I'm talking about if they stop responding, if they ghosted you, or you're trying to connect with them, call them 3 times in a row. I know this for a fact. If a number calls me right now, I'm not going to pick it up. If they call me 3 times in a row, I'm going to say, guys, I'm sorry, I have to take this call because maybe it's my kids they're in camp. I don't know. I need to pick it up, right? Keep that in mind. Use it strategically because on cold calling, you also will burn your numbers, right? So you need to find that balance and be very intentional with that. And it goes back to having data, creating a plan and being intentional so you can maximize your effort because it's impossible to do it for every single prospect that you have in your lists.
Could not have said it better myself. Alrighty, guys, Jesus, thank you so much for that response. That was absolutely amazing. Guys, we already know, so Jesus and Mike already went through what they're able to provide if you decide to go with 80/20 REI, and it's mostly not even a decision, but definitely just go for it. You will not regret it. We know that they're best when it comes to wholesaling deals. Even without the purchase, we really suggest getting on a discovery call with them. Jesus talked about what they can teach you and everything and all the insight that they're able to share with you as well. Micah did share the link, but I'm going to share it once again in the chat as well. Now, the thing is as much as Launch Control's anti-spam and compliance algorithm is sophisticated on our end, that's how sophisticated the system 80/20 REI uses to gather premium up-to-date lead list for which you can squeeze out more ROI than you can spend, which is at the end of the day, the most important thing. If we don't have quality data, we cannot expect to have ROI or at least get that ROI that we may beginning to wonder about in the first place. Now, 80/20 rank sellers in your market based on the likelihood to sell under margin, and I couldn't recommend more to check them out. So being fully aware of how difficult and costly it is to get the solid data in with no guarantee on quality and wanted lead flow. So feel free, they are trusted partners, so we're able to vouch for them. So that risk is off the table. Jesus, once again, really appreciate you being here. Is there anything you would like to say before we end the mastermind?
No, just thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share. I hope you guys got some nuggets there that you can apply to your business regardless of that. And if you're looking for upgrade on your data and you are on your path to scaling your business, we would love to connect with you guys. We have a special offer for Launch Control members. They got a 20% off on the onboarding fee. Just book a call with us. We'd love to discuss. We actually go above and beyond with our clients, helping with exactly the same things that we're doing here. We get to really help them. Our onboarding process is a 3 to 9 month process, depending on your marketing channels. And we make sure that you getting the best return on investment on each marketing channel, one channel at a time. So it's a thorough process because we've done it, we do it on our business, and we help hundreds of investors to do it. So we have a ton of resources to, like, some similar to the ones that we're discussing here, in order for you to take your outbound marketing to the next level. So thank you, Jason, so much. Thank you, guys. Great questions, and we'll love to connect with you guys.
Love having all of you here. You heard it all from the man himself, Jesus. Definitely take advantage of the information that he just shared. Stay tuned. All of you will receive the recording. By the time we get to that, you can check it out on Facebook as well, on our Facebook private group. You can request to join, and well, be prepared for the next Mastermind Volume 7. Guys, once again, beautiful to see you all. Jesus, thank you. All of you have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.